Thanks, man. Ah, you guys. How's it going, everyone? Great. You all look super good. Oh, man, cool. I just came from Dan Crawl's class, and it was awesome. I was so excited to see everyone's stuff. It totally got me pumped and also intimidated. Because you guys are super good already. But, okay, I'm going to talk a little bit about myself, you guys, and my adventures, and maybe we can learn together some of the things that I've learned. Maybe it's interesting to everyone. But I will, I've done, so far I've done like games. My areas of expertise is video games and comics and galleries and children's books. Those are the kind of things that I've been experiencing. I'll just say I'm experiencing these things. All right, you guys? So I just want to start with some early stuff. These are some of my earliest works. These are used to have young authors fairs. I used to obviously draw a lot, which I'm sure all of you guys did when you were little. I used to make a lot of books with my brother and I, and when we had a young authors fair every year, that was like my absolute favorite thing because you get to make your own book and submit it, And I was like so pumped on winning that every year. I never did. I got this little ribbon one time, but because my books were very, very long and never had an ending. Because it was just like an adventure that my brother and I would play, and then I'd want to transcribe it, sort of thing. You know what I mean? I was obviously very into dragons. Most of my artwork had dragons in it. And my rivals, Nathan Oshijari was the master of robots, and Pam Fury's master of horses. And so you have to like perfect your one thing that you're good at, and decide that's what you're going to do for the rest of your life. And I decided it was going to be dragons for the rest of my life. And I also wanted to do Star Wars, though. So at a very early age, I was like, I just want to draw Star Wars and dragons. And that's it. And I'll have a happy life, probably. So anyways, but also later on, I got really into collecting comics with my brother, and I got super into like X-Men and like, all these different comics that got me. I was just super into collecting comics, you guys. And I'll tell you how into it I got, dude. We got our crown jewel goal, X-Men #1. We got X-Men #1. The end. We don't have to do any more collecting, so we stopped collecting. That was the crown jewel. But so anyways, before we went, I decided I wanted to be an artist, obviously, and so I went to college to study, to go to San Francisco to study at the Academy of Art to study illustration. Basically, just illustration, all-encompassing, and which I think is probably you guys too. But mostly because I wanted to do comics and wanted to do comic books like X-Men and or children's books. Those are the two things. I didn't know exactly what. But at that time, I was going to a lot of comic conventions in the Bay Area and getting all of my comics signed by everybody that had any part in it, like even the letterer or the editor or the side editor or the fourth editor down the line. So I had a list of all the people. Anyways, so I was really, really into it. So I went into college with these sorts of influences. This is exactly what I wanted to be, I wanted to be a master of drawing people. I wanted to be mostly just people. I didn't like backgrounds. You don't need them. That's what I thought. You don't need backgrounds, and you don't need colors, really. Even though those are nice colors, I was like, I'm just going to be a penciler. I don't even have to ink my own stuff. That's my plan. So I was like studying to do just that, and I didn't like any other type of art. I didn't any other type of drawing or anything. So I was like, really, really just wanted to perfect just drawing people, So, but one of the things that I got out of college, probably the biggest thing for me, was meeting the other people in college and the other influences that other people come to college with. So I was exposed to other ways of interpreting. You guys, these are some of my pages I was doing in school, man. I really wanted to do Batman. I mean, I do Batman. I wasn't like super fan of it, but I'll do it. Anyways, but in college I was like exposed to like all these other ways of interpreting people and situations and stuff, which I'd never seen this stuff before or really cared about too much. I was like always thought it was kind of childish or, or like modern art or even just like something just a bunch of like color on a canvas or something like that. I just never really got it, you know. But then, like, through my friends, I started getting really interested in how all these different people like interpreted the world, you know. I was really into it. Like Paul Klee, I loved his way of just sectionalizing everything and the texture that he got. I started getting really interested in the texture of things, you know, and just the rawness of the shapes and everything like that. But then again, even Earl, I was just always been into this dude. And this guy was probably my biggest influence on everything that I ever do. Psychonauts, all my video games were all, because it can go with everything. It could be very cartoony zone, and it could be very intense heavy metal zone, which I will show you. Okay, so after school though, you guys, I was really lost. I didn't know what to do because like I had studied all this stuff and I just didn't know, in the world I didn't know what to do with it at all. So I was really stressed out, constantly going back to school and being like, oh dude, complaining to my teachers. I'm like, what do I do with this stuff? You know, like, I mean, do I do kids? I had no idea what to do with it, you know? And I go to the job board and I'll do any job, you know, maybe a storyboard from a school commercial, or maybe I'll do this little thing here, a little cartoon for this magazine. Like, I don't know what to use it for. I just want to use my art in something, you know? But at that time, I was working in a pizza place, and a friend of mine who graduated got a job at LucasArts being an animator on Escape from Monkey Island, I think, was what she was working on. And she was the same as me. They taught her how to animate, because at that time, games weren't a very big deal, and I really wasn't really that interested in them necessarily. But there's this little company called Lucas Learning that was starting next to LucasArts, and they did Star Wars games for kids, educational games for kids. And they needed a background artist. And so I was like, oh, Star Wars, gee, you know? That's perfect for me. I love Star Wars so much, you know? So I applied, but I hate backgrounds, but I'll do it anyways, you know? And so I went there to try to get that job, and I brought my portfolio, and it was all my figurative stuff, and I'm like, oh, perfect to do this background job. And they're like, and they look at your portfolio, and they're like, oh, man, yeah, it's really, really good people, but there's like no backgrounds in this, so like I put backgrounds in this. I'll speed up this story. I went back, changed it, put backgrounds in, and I got the job, and it was great. But basically, what was great working at that company was it was my first time working with a team of people to create a project, and because it was a small company, you wear a lot of different hats. So I was able to kind of redesign, do characters, and do effects, just kind of design a bunch of different things, and very quickly you could do that sort of thing. I mean, no one played these games that we made. Unless, if anyone's played Yoda's Challenge, it was like a challenge for kids mostly. And then there's Jabba's Math Galaxy. Games that no one cared about, and I really wasn't that proud of them or anything. But when I was there, that's when I met Tim Schafer, who was just finished off Grim Fandango. And he was leaving, we became friends, and he was leaving to start Double Fine. And then he asked me to go join him to be art director on his first game, Psychonauts. So I did it. So I left. And then we made a bunch of games. Some examples of some of the games. So this is the first game that I'll talk a little bit about. Maybe it'd be interesting to you get. This game is called Psychonauts, and I don't know, some of you might have played it, some of you might probably have not, but like, the basic idea was the idea is you're this psychic kid. That's why he has this here, he's thinking. And he has psychic powers like telekinesis and fire starting, all this different stuff, and he's at a camp with other kids learning from these old secret agents called Psychonauts how to become awesome. And he uncovers this plot and blah, blah, blah. It's awesome, exciting. But the basic game mechanic is you jump, each level is you jump inside people's brains by throwing a little door on their head to open. And you can kind of jump in there, and you exist in their world. However they perceive their own world is what is in the world, which was amazing idea, amazing way of developing characters and stuff, because you get to fully explore the backgrounds of these characters and everything about them. So like, for example, one is like a black velvet painter, and he's like super into painting, but he can only paint matadors. That's it, and he's chained up. Oh yeah, you guys, because there's an insane asylum across the way, so there's like, it's insane people you're solving their insanities. problems. Anyways, so you go inside his mind, and it's all fluorescent colors. By the way, I'm sorry I don't have a lot of stuff, you guys. I don't I may have some stuff to show you, but I had to get it off the internet. Oh, I'll show you this. Oh, wait, before I talk about that, well, I'll finish this sentence first. So you go inside that mind, and it's all black light, and you're running through the streets of Pamplona with this bull, and there's these wrestlers and everything. It's kind of everything had to look like it's painted on black, like on black velvet, and we were trying to really push that sort of thing. Or there's like the schizophrenic old lady that used to be in the theater, like Sunset Boulevard, and you go inside her mind, and you're on stage, and 1 second it's like puppies and little girls, and the next second they turn into like thistles and hellhounds, stuff like that, you know. Anyways, but when we first were talking about what we wanted the game to be about, Tim's big deal with 3D at this time was he didn't think people could do 3D people very well, like humans. So he was always thinking like, man, why are these games trying to do that? Why don't they try to do something that seems like it would be fake looking a little bit, you know, but also real. You know, it's like maquettes. He's really into, so Grim Fandango, he was kind of trying to do stuff that looked like Day of the Dead paper mache dudes, you know, kind of like something that made sense in 3D. So for Psychonauts, he was like, dude, we'll make it like Rankin Bass, like all these old stop motion things. And he was like, we're gonna have all this cool tech where like all the hair is gonna be moving all weird, you know, and a thumbprint will appear every once in a while, and it'll look like stop motion, you know? And I was like, oh my God, this is going to be the most amazing game ever. But super, I don't know if it did, but obviously we couldn't make it exactly like that. But it was the style, kind of like a real cartoony style. So we were obviously looking at a lot of Rankin Bass and looking at Nightmare Before Christmas. And mostly with Rankin Bass because they were making these awesome, like kind of 50s drawings work in 3D, which is what I was really, really pumped on. And in the beginning, it was really, really hard to grasp what that is for our modelers and stuff. Like, so the orthos and everything had to be really detailed, like every little movement, you had to show them what it might look like from every angle. So it was a lot of work. But then it was easy after a while. So we also pulled from a lot of this stuff, which was I was inspired by the time. Joe Soren, Tim Biscuit, J. Otto, Siebold, Shag. These are my biggest influences at the time, which was what, 2000? Oh my God. So one of the things that I learned from Psychonauts was designing characters. Like, well, first of all, like I designed the main character first, which was a lesson I learned was probably a bad idea to draw that guy first. Because, well, I'll tell you why later, but basically his name is D'Artagnan back in the day, and he escaped from the circus, and so he had a real rich background. It's like, because Tim's really, his characters, he writes really depth, a lot of backstory to his characters. So you know what they're about and what kind of accessories you give them or what might inform the visual stuff, you know. So for him, he escaped from the circus, so he's kind of, you know, he got a lot of kung fu vibe to him. So he's really action-packed, you know, kind of old-timey, like little caravans and things. So when he escapes, he kind of has that feel. And we wanted him, he's an acrobatic dude, so you want to have him a lot of movements. So we're going to have the hat was going to be really cool, how it moved and everything, you know. So we built him and everything. And we put him in the game. We started animating him, and then we started designing the other characters, and it was great. But then after a while, we started realizing that, like, man, he like doesn't look awesome at all. You know, like he can't hold the trapeze. He can't and look cool, you know, like with his head. And his legs, I mean, like the elements to his body are just too hard to deal with. And when we focus test him, everyone thought he was a girl because of the thing. And that also was not something he wanted. And the tech was impossible to do with that. So we got pretty far. We got the whole first level done, and this, like the next few levels kind of going, and a lot of characters designed. And we also were lining up all the characters that time, and we started realizing that the shapes of the characters were all very, very interesting. And then he himself seemed like he became his own thing. Like he wasn't even like in the game. He wasn't even the same style as everybody else, and he wasn't a very charismatic lead, you know. So it seems like you'd want to design the cast of characters, or at least kind of the vibe that you want, and then kind of see like what might come to the surface as the main dude, you know? That's what we learned with this. So we just decided to scrap that whole dude and everything, which is a real big decision for us, and then start over on designing him kind of looking at some of the other characters, you know, and how he might, his eagerness to be kind of like a real cool secret agenty dude, and he has a big crush on this dude, who is like one of the leaders of the Psychonauts and everything. He's a real Bauhaus, like refined look, and so maybe Raz. Oh, also we changed the name to Raz for legal reasons, I guess. So yeah, so we kind of had these accessories that kind of tell his story, that he's kind of like a little bit more action-packed and everything. He's more of a fan of the Psychonauts, a little bit more than he's just a circus dude, you know? So that's kind of what we were going for with him. Oh yeah, so here's an example of another world. There's the monster that steals the children, and by luring him in with the little pizza and TVs and stuff, and he lures, and he eats them. But inside, it's actually a nice, comfortable like chair and TV and stuff in there, so it's pretty nice. But he steals them, bring them across the lake, and the bad guy is stealing the brains to put in brain tanks and stuff. So that's the idea. But at one point, you go inside his mind, and it's a role reversal thing where like you're the monster, and all the citizens are little lungfish dudes, and you're like destroying their town. Super genius. And so here's some Luca Libres. And this is the only one, and usually like these characters, we go through like probably like at least 20 to 50, like drawing like a lot of different versions of the characters before they're right, you know, and showing them. And every time I show them to Tim, it's a very fun process. And you show it to Tim, and you want to get a good reaction. You want to get a good reaction especially from Tim. My biggest thing is I want him to be pumped and laugh at it and stuff or something. So I'll show it to him or something, and he'll be like, oh, yeah, it's cool. And you know that, and you shouldn't stop when that's the reaction. You're like, oh man, I gotta make something else. And you kind of talk through it and try to figure out what it is that, I mean, I love the process of drawing stuff over and over again. Sometimes it gets very depressing. Sometimes I get very depressed when you can't get to that point. But then when you finally get it, it's super, super exciting when you get that reaction and stuff. But lots of times it's like very far in the future. You have to draw the same thing like 60 times before you get it exactly right. And sometimes you gotta you get stressed out and you gotta use different materials. Maybe it's because I'm drawing with a pencil on paper. Maybe I need to draw it with a marker on paper bag. Maybe that's will give me ideas. For some reason, I was like trying to change up tools, you know, sitting in different chairs. I was like anything to kind of ease up my creativity somehow. I would feel like I would get very superstitious in that way. But I think it kind of helps, maybe. FYI for you guys. But I'll tell you this. This was the first drawing I did for Psychonauts. And that's how he turned out. So you never know, dude. You never know. So anyway, so these are, oops. So yeah, these are two of the teachers, Psychonauts teachers. And oh yeah, another thing is like drawing the characters in poses that maybe would tell their personality, tell what their story is a bit, you know. And I knew very early on with Tim also is like you draw a character standing there, or even just posing like this, and then or you have a dude doing something, doing whatever it is that he might be doing, then he's gonna like that drawing the most. It's like a secret thing. Like and he even told me, he's like, I'm a sucker for it, dude. I'm like, well, how do you make a good decision if like you just are concerned with the poses and stuff? But it's just important to think about that because you want to show kind of like make sure that the design of the character works with the personality and the actions of what might be happening with the character. So obviously she's lazy, Shigor. Well, not lazy, clumsy. Yes, wrong word. Clumsy and stressed out. So this guy, he's a milkman, so he's kind of got a milk bottle inspirational shape. This dude is the bully, so he's inspired by the kid from Christmas Story. So, oh yeah, so and these are the sorts of things. These are the sorts. Wait, were you laughing at this or? Oh, anyways, so yeah, I put a sandwich because he might be eating a sandwich at some point, I guess. And you want to like show like these are the sorts of details you want to kind of make sure they understand like how it looks like when it's closed, it's open, all that stuff. But you guys know that. I saw your guys' stuff. You guys know that earlier. Okay, and our next game, Brutal Legend, was like a slightly different style than Psychonauts, which is a breath of fresh air for us because we were having to work for 5 years on Psychonauts and stuff. So But this is what happens, and this is important for everything, you guys, is like everybody in the company had to switch gears from that game to this game. And you have to, and the style really is defined by what the vision is and what the idea of the whole thing is. And this was based on heavy metal and hot rods. Like those are the two things Tim loves. And the basic idea was, so you have to be okay with changing your style. If you're working in a video game company or a film company or something like that, you got to like be open to changing your style. And it actually is pretty fun to do it because it kind of makes you feel refreshed. But anyways, the story with this game, you guys, is you are a roadie that's for heavy metals bands. So you pulled back in time to the Middle Ages, but Middle Ages actually looks like, not like traditional Middle Ages, but it looks like all the heavy metal album covers are almost like those are the history books defining what it looked like back then. Those are the true historians. And just people just didn't believe it anymore. So he goes back in time and he's like, what? It's like molten chrome volcanoes and demon-backed mountains and like demons flying all everywhere and like voluptuous ladies and incredibly buff men doing crazy stuff, epic stuff. So it had to be the most epic stuff, you know? Basically, so it was very styled by Frank Frazetta because he was like everybody in heavy metal's favorite dude for some reason. And then like it had to be hot rod thing. So he's pulled back in time and he has to free the humans from the demons and he's kind of has to lead them. And all he knows how to do is just be a roadie, just kind of get armies together. He's not the main dude. But he also knows how to make hot rods. And luckily for him, hot rod, all the elements are growing out of the world. Because we wanted it to be, that's like kind of our thing, you know? Like for getting tires, they would be trees and you just slice them up like sushi and that's how you'd make your tires. And there'd be like bamboo forests of exhaust pipes, and that's how you'd harvest, or trees of exhaust pipes, and that's how you'd harvest them, you know. And you'd have, you know, or like, you'd have the animals, and the animals, instead of bones, they have exhaust pipes. You just shave off the meat, eat that, and then use that on your cars and stuff, you know. So, but that's something we went through the entire game. Like when we would make something, we'd look at it and we'd say, okay, how can we turn this into our world? How can we make this specific to our world, you know? Not so crazy that everything's nuts, but like where you have a familiarity, but something's weird. So people would be modeling stuff, and I'd be going through the game, and I'd see stuff like this, like, okay, there's meat standing on the thing. Okay, how can we make that brutal meat? So we'd make that, you know? And there'd be also museums of, well, that's the other thing, you guys, with backstory and stuff. I'm gonna have a sip of water. How are you guys doing? Okay. Is there a clock around here? I should like. Oh my God, dude! I gotta get going. Okay. So yeah, it's like layers of history, layers of backstory. You know, like what makes like Lord of the Rings so awesome, so believable of a world is that you see things that have come before, things that have come from. Like you'd see ruins, like ancient ruins. And then you'd see ancient ruins that those were ancient ruins were built on. You see like layers of civilizations and stuff. And that's amazing. That's what makes it so awesome. And Tim, like when he was writing the backstory for this world, he started all the way back to the beginning when it was just a ball of mud with all these creatures rolling all over it. That was the beginning of the backstory that he wrote. And then like those creatures turned into a certain civilization, and then certain ones of them turned into the Titans, and then those guys kind of built the hot rods, and they were so big for the world that they went up into the heavens and became rock gods, and then they left, and they left their stuff in there for people to understand, but the demons don't know how to make that stuff, so they just see these things in the museums and stuff like that. They don't know what to do with it, you know? But you do as a roadie, so that's why you save everybody. But those are the types of the things. And I just want to mention just really quick because about the background stuff, like what I've learned about about backgrounds is how important they are. Not just how important they are, but how useful they are in storytelling. Like I love backgrounds now, and I love, especially in video games, like I love thinking about like if you have a little scene, right? Like, okay, like this is a chill spot, right? Something that I was always into when you're doing Brutal Legend is like making sure everyone knew is important to have chill spots, you know? Like, It's like an intense game, but you want to have spots where you can just relax. Something where you would find something that was left there, you know, like you see a campfire that was like there, and you're like, who was here? Interesting. You know, you think about what happened before. Like I think about that when you see something like by the side of the road or something. You see, like, you're walking through a forest and there's a tire chilling there, and you're like, how did this tire get in this forest? What is the history of this tire? What is the backstory of this tire? You know, and thinking about just putting that stuff there, it adds to kind of people's discovery. Like they discover that stuff, and they might piece together stories in their own mind, but also they kind of like they're more immersed in it, I think, you know. And you could leave things for people to find, and when people discover that, especially in video games or in movies or in books too, like in illustrations and children's books, if you have those things for kids to find or people to find, it's like laying those things around for people to discover themselves is awesome. It empowers the reader and the viewer to feel like they're super intelligent. Anyways. So one of the rules that we had in creating our world was we create a beast, and it looks cool. It's an awesome beast. And everybody kind of can draw cool creatures and stuff, but we would always ask the question, what makes it brutal? What's a brutal version of this? If you create an alligator, what elements do you have in your world to use? You know, and for us, it was like all the like the exhaust pipes, and he would have like a tire skin and a backbone of engines. Because, oh yeah, I forgot, this is all, there's so much to talk about. But anyways, in the backstory, there's a beast, a very, very old part of the legend that was made of all these elements, and he was tricked by some of the creatures to fall to the earth, and he just exploded and became a part of everything. And that was kind of why you can harvest oil from the ground, because that was his blood. You know, that's why there's molten chrome. That's why there's exhaust pipe forests, because it's kind of growing from him or her. I don't know exactly. But anyways, in conclusion, if we would take our designs and if we put them on an album cover, a heavy metal album cover, if it is something that Motorhead would put on their album cover or Exodus, then it's a good design. If not, then it's a bad design. So yeah. Anyways, so upside down cathedrals, crazy. So, oh yeah, hey, there's a glam dude, glam metal. So it has to have very, very glam palace where he lives. So, this is okay, so when we were designing the characters, we were trying to push, like, really trying out a wide variety of styles. Obviously, we're going more towards Rosetta. This is the style kind of that we chose. This was an early painting just to pitch the game and show them kind of how intense we want it to be and all the different mechanics. That's just an etching. And so we very early on also we just drew a bunch of different characters and put them together to show what they show how they might work as a team. You know, so this is the doomy death metal team. So very haunted B-movie styles, monster movies and stuff like that. That was the kind of vibe we wanted for them. You know, and when we were designing the main character, we kind of learned from our lessons before and designed a lot of the other characters first. And the main character we wanted to be inspired by Lemmy Kilmister, who is the lead singer of Motorhead. He himself started as a roadie, which is why Tim wanted to start that way. So he's a very stoic dude. Everyone respected him. He's going to be the main dude. And he goes back in time, and he's just really tough. So we were kind of trying to push his proportions, see how stylized we want him to be and everything. And we try him out in the situations. Well, he has to be a roadie on Earth, and he has to fly with demon wings to command his armies in the future. Does it work? And you're like, yeah, it works. But one of the things we were missing with him was the feeling of you want to be this character, you want to be the main character, you want to identify with him. And part of what makes it kind of cool is he's going back in time to this crazy-ass zone that everyone's going to be losing their mind over. But this guy, in reality, would probably be just like, it's cool. And light up a cigarette and stuff. And he wouldn't really react to everything, you know? So we were kind of thinking we wanted somebody that that would get pumped along with you, that you could identify with. So we were looking at Jack Black in School of Rock, like how pumped he is about heavy metal. Like he himself is respectable and buff and amazing, but he also needs to be very excited about it. Where he's like, yeah, I could do all this shit. I can do it all. I'm buff. I'm amazing. But there's a fucking chrome volcano. That's insane. I love it. You know, he has to get pumped on all this stuff. And I think that's what is kind of exciting as a player, to kind of assume that kind of role rather than more of a stoic, non-talking role of person, you know, because you could get pumped with them. So anyways, That was kind of the vibe that we have. But he's still badass also. And the female character, we kind of were, the main female character, her backstory was she was a rocker, and she cast herself into the sea of black tears to commit suicide because she had some rough times in the game. But then she rises again as a phoenix of death. So, and she leads that bummer crew earlier, that death metal crew. That's like her crew. So she has to have all those elements. So she had all these elements. So of dried roses and thorns, of raven's wings, like all these, lace, like stockings are like they're torn, all the different kind of gothy things. That's what she was inspired by. And she had to have wings and a weapon. In games, you got to give them certain things. So she had to have wings and weapons. So we were thinking, okay, that's cool, that's cool. And so we did a lot of drawings like that. And then we're thinking, okay, but really she's defined, like we look back at her backstory and more of her, like she's in the Black Tears and it rebuilt her. So it seems like the sea itself is giving life to her. So the sea itself should supply her with her new outfit. And she might have like the raven's wings and she might have the ripped lace and stuff, but it's formed by this new thing. And she could wield that as her weapon. So we're like, oh yeah, that's more badass. And it's more, plays along with what she's all about, So, and when she's walking around, she's always having things rising up like she's still drowned, Which I'll be honest, Devil's Backbone, seen it? That's what I was thinking about. Here she is, chilling. Okay, so the glam guy. He needs, yeah. Don't look at that because I'm getting to that part. So, you guys, he has his beautiful hair and stuff, and he needs to have the same things of flying and also a weapon and stuff, And we were just trying to figure out how he would fly. Would he use his feather boas to fly? Would all this stuff? But what makes hair metal important as a thing is they always have the huge hair. So then we're just like, oh yeah, make the hair can be the wings, because that's who he is. He would use the most important thing about himself to do the flying. So, and the mic is his weapon. Anyways, and then the demons, they're really into bondage. So they're trying to beautify themselves by their own ways. So that's the head demon dude. So there's a lineup. And here's some other games we worked on. So we switched gears a lot. That's saying you guys got to switch gears. It was a pleasure to design Muppets, though, I'll tell you that. Here's some other stuff, orthos. Okay, guys. I'm going to talk about galleries a little bit. No more games for a bit. Hopefully it don't go too long. I don't know what time it is. But, okay. So galleries, you guys. So I just want to mention that, so these are, all things that are happening for me around the same, alongside each other, I think, so going back to, when I first graduated, oh, man, it sounds like it's going to be forever, huh? I'm going to say go back to that. But anyways, so when I graduated, when the one thing that I was missing from college, and all my friends were missing, we were we missed that community. This is an important thing that you guys have right now is the community and the peers and the critiques of each other's work and everything like that. Because when you're out of college, you don't have that. Or you have to find that is the thing, So for us, we're like, man, we don't have anything there's no deadlines. We have no homework. We have no projects, So trying to motivate yourself is difficult. It's super difficult. Then you get a job, and then to do that stuff outside of that job is even more difficult, But you got to push it, And for us, the biggest way to do it is to get together in groups. And we would get together as photographers and graphic designers and illustrators, and we would get pumped with each other, and we would show each other what we were working on. That was kind of our thing. And then we started making goals of throwing gallery shows. We're like, oh, okay, those would be good deadlines. Maybe if we'd rent a space, and for one night, and we're all in bands and stuff, so we'd have bands playing, and we could we'd have the art up and be one night blowout, And we did that once, and it was awesome. And then we did it again, and we kept doing it. And it provided us as little goals for us to kind of do, and we did it ourselves, And it was because there weren't that many galleries that catered to this sort of stuff at all. Anyways, in San Francisco, there wasn't much of a scene for me. Street art was just definitely starting to be in galleries and everything respected. But we were just doing it for experiences, having crazy experiences and blowouts. So and also I couldn't figure out what medium I was working with and everything, so I was kind of stressed out about that. But my biggest thing, so these are all gouache for these shows and everything. But I'm going to take a deep breath for a moment. I get all excited. So, anyways, so around this time, besides the community aspect of everything, I was really struggling with like a voice or something I wanted to say with my art and everything. I felt like everyone around me, all my friends, were like, it's like they needed art in order to exist. It's like if they weren't painting, they would probably murder somebody or something. Like really terrible stuff. And I'd be like, oh. And then they'd have all these things, my piece is saying this about society and all this stuff. And I was like, I have nothing to say. I was like, I'm just drawing weird shaped characters on patterns, you know? I was like, but, you know, I didn't find that excitement in creating stuff. For me, myself, I couldn't find that excitement. And I was always trying to figure out, like, and I was working with kids a lot at the time, like painting with them and stuff, and watching them tell their stories of their paintings, you know? And which I wouldn't know. If I didn't hear the story, it just looks like a mess at the end. But then when I hear the story, I'm like, oh man, this crazy adventure happened in that? Interesting. I had no idea that you had an adventure. And I was thinking, like, that's the excitement that I wanted to get back, like how pumped they were doing that stuff. Like, that's what I wanted to get back when I was a child, and I wanted to wake up in the morning to get to that thing that I was working on, that drawing that I was working on, to create that adventure that I was having, you know? Because it's basically just documenting an adventure that you have. You know what I mean? That's like the main aspect of it. So I was kind of struggling with that. Around that time, I also saw an art show by this guy, Marcel Sama, and it totally relaxed me. Because he was painting these really simple things in watercolor, just super simple, really muted stuff, you know? And it got me so excited. It relaxed me. I was like, oh my God, hey, I'll try watercolors. I'll mellow things out. So so for like a little art show for these comic conventions, we do these little art shows, like I kind of tried to simplify everything, you know, and have little narratives happening. And I realized what I really wanted was like a hint of little narratives that you could kind of see. So it's not just a character on a background, but it's like a little bit of clues there of a story you could piece together, sort of thing, you know. And I got really into that. And then I think I just kept on getting into it. Just kidding, I have more to say. So another show around this time, I was introduced to this guy, John Gibson, who was throwing the show at 1988 in this gallery in LA. It was called I Am 8-Bit, which was like a show inspired by 8-bit video games. And I think it was the first of its kind, because I think there's a lot of shows like that now, a lot of nostalgia shows like that now. And this was the beginning of that, where there weren't that many galleries, actual galleries that showed that, not cartoon art museums, but galleries that showed it as a respectable art form, you know? This is the first time I experienced that, you know? And so they had this, they show a lot of different stuff, but they had these themed shows, and this was their 8-bit one. And at first I was like, I don't know if I want to like redo someone else's thing, you know? I don't know if I want to redraw Pac-Man in my style, or redraw this stuff in my style. So I was wanting to kind of just take it and be inspired to make something new from it, I guess, you know, or kind of riff on it. So this is Paperboy. This is an old video game. I don't know if you guys played it. You guys have? Wow, okay, cool. That was in the arcades. It had this BMX handle thing, which is my favorite game. So anyways, it came out in 1984. And I said, hey, 1884. It would look different if it came out in 1884. So like all the different elements, it was fun to just kind of try to figure out how it would look in a Western town. You know, you're just delivering these papers. So the dude that has like backspinning to a boombox, it would probably be a phonograph. You know? And there'd be a Wolfman there. And I don't know why there's a Wolfman there. And I did do Pac-Man the next year. So, so every year they have the same show, and the year after that, I was thinking, oh, Pac-Man, maybe there'd be other situations that Pac-Man goes to be in. Maybe let's explore some other kind of things that could happen, you know. And I decided I wanted to paint these paintings very small like this, and do like 100 of these things, and then make it into Pac-Man shape, like bit style. And I want it to be like little candies at these art shows, and they're very cheap, and people can buy them, so everyone can have a little piece of art, you know? That's really what I wanted to do with these little things, and they're the best. And when you're thinking of gags and stuff like that, it's fun to kind of, somehow it eases my mind to think of a bunch of gags at once, rather than just have one gag. So it's kind of a cop-out, maybe. And then the other thing that we did was this thing called, it was a Crazy for Cult themed show, so it was cult movies. So I wanted to do paintings again, small little paintings, and these were called the GREAT SHOWDOWNs. And these were they depicted very, very intense moments in film, you know, but boiled down to just that moment. And they're usually pretty pumped to be involved at the moment. They're rarely not pumped. So those are just really, really famous movies. And so I just did a lot of pop art stuff. Like this is from, like, there's an old Godzilla photograph where there's a lot of he's eating the trains and it look like sausages. So I was like, sausages. And Dracula's, there's a whole bunch of different Draculas. So I was like, they would probably, how would it be like if they spent some time together away from their different adventures, you know? Okay, and Devo. This was very exciting to figure out that Devo's hats looked like the Space Invaders. That was like a huge. And this comes. I'll be talking about like reference later, but this comes from like I'm super addicted to reference, and you print that stuff out and you just kind of look through it and you draw it and you never know what patterns might come or what you might discover from it. And that was fun. Drew one of those guys and I was like, maybe make it shooting, and then anyways. And so Bowie has a lot of different styles. So maybe he would love to hang out with himself and have a goal, and the goal would be building this thing. E.T., there's a series called Friends of E.T., and these are all nostalgia shows. And this is like E.T. hanging with things that I liked when I was a kid, you know? And for comedy, I've always loved putting somebody with their feet up on something. It's always funny, dude, and there's like a rock for no reason. Oops. So this is the Voltron. Anyways, he's eating. I don't have much to say about that one, but I was pumped on that. And this is for a Twin Peaks show. And for this, it's less of a gag thing, really. It's not really a gag piece, but it's more just like kind of focusing on what I really loved about Twin Peaks, which was like the patterns on the wallpapers and the forests and everything. I just kind of wanted to focus on that and then have the dudes chilling and throw that guy up there. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Oh, hey, here's some guys. So here, this is like just some dudes kicking. This is an early illustration. I don't know what to say about that one, but it's interesting. This is for a show in LA. It was a ninja-themed show, so it was all about kind of ninjas, and which feels a little played out to me, but like I was like, let's do it, and they're ninjas. And I was like, ninjas are so fun to draw. That's why people love ninjas. So. But I wanted to get inspired by those really old story scrolls. I went to the Asian Art Museum to prepare for this, and in San Francisco, and they had all these awesome story scrolls, old ancient scrolls, and these ancient things that you change behind, you know, those walls. And they tell epic tales, you know, with a million dudes all over, these samurai battling. So I was like, let's have it be Ninja Town, all the ninjas battling. So that's inspired by that. It's much longer than this. This is a dog, epic dog amongst other dogs. And this was for a zombie love exhibition, and so it was just a bunch of zombie lovers at a zombie fair. Brain bumper cars. Amazing. Okay, so this is my, I'm going to talk a little bit about the cute influence on me, really quick. So I did this a long time ago for my friend Michelle, who loves cute things so much. And I was like, I'm going to paint the cutest thing ever. For her. And so I painted it and I gave it to her, and I wanted everything to be cute here. And after that I was like, man, it's fun to paint cute things. So I got really into painting cute things. And so there's a show after that, and it was like, I think it was, I forget the theme, but I was like, the series is called Adorable Battles. And it's like kind of like plugging in cute stuff in these situations changes the vibe a bit. Like if they're still bummed, and here's the series. This is called Cute Hunter, and this guy, he hunts cute things, but it's okay because all the cute things are smiling, so you can't be that bummed out, you know, for them. If animal rights people. Here's a fellow who's figured out how to grow them. And this is from a show in LA called Great Grand Show, and it was all old-timey paintings, and so I did a bunch of series of inventors, you know. And this is another invention someone made. Just inventions that weren't very popular, basically. That's a hammock tank. So basically, since then, I've had smiley faces on a lot of my stuff because I love it so much. This is a show in LA called Home Slice, and this was like basically cutaways of stuff, which and every shape of a house kind of determined who's in the house, sort of thing. Because as a kid, that was my favorite thing to draw. I don't know if anyone else is into that, but like little underground caverns and stuff, that's just my favorite ever, doing that. So yeah, Eskimos live in an ice house, of course. So this is from this film, King of Kong, Fistful of Quarters. It's a documentary about two guys trying to battle for the highest score. Awesome documentary. But this is for the DVD cover on the inside. I got through a friend of mine. And this was one of my favorite things to do because drawing the arcade machines is like, coming up with arcade games is so fun, dude. But this was the most stressful thing that I ever did, for sure. It's a very long time ago. But anyways, and we did collaboration. I did some collaborations with my friend Jim Mahfood, and I'd only do it with Jim Mahfood because I'm not like, and he has a very graffiti style, and so he draws a lot of ladies and arrows and stuff, you know. And like we had this show in London where we would do half the painting and send it to the other person, and then they would finish it. So, and it was fun. And he does. So that's what that is. Okay, so comics, and okay, so the last thing that I is part of my kind of deal is doing comics. I don't know how I'm doing time, but so these aren't mine, you guys. These are a combination. So when I was at Lucas, I met these guys, this guy Graham Manable and Joe White and these other guys, and around the time of starting that little art community thing, we started this little comic community, just like the 6 of us. And every Sunday we'd get together and we would just do jam comics together. And just to draw and make each other laugh and everything, for no other reason, just for that, you know. And then where you pass the different, you know how that works? Jam comics? They oftentimes don't end very good, let's be honest. But like, it was just a fun way for us to do it, and it gave us a reason to get together. And we would go to these conventions and stuff, and, oh, I'm sorry, I'm touching my microphone. We'd go to these conventions that I used to go to and get stuff signed by people, but this time we went and brought our own comics and stuff. And I think and I still go I go to about 4 or 5 a year, these comic conventions, and they are the best because you meet so many people at these places, you know? And so many people that do amazing things. Like every time I go to those conventions, it just blows me away. So in the beginning, we just print out our comics on a copier and stuff, and we'd bring them and we just hand them to people, you know? It's like, oh yeah, which I get a lot, and now I get that a lot from people too, which is awesome. I love that. Because you never know when something's going to be rad, and you never know when you hand it to someone who's going to love it. You just never know, you know? And then you can trade with people that are making comics too, and you're just like, it's just the best, you guys. And so I still love going to for inspiration and everything. And so our friend Graham got published with Alternatives, so we started freeloading at his table and just hanging out with our comics to that table until they picked us up also. That was our technique, which is probably not a good technique. But so this is one of my mini comics, Pyramid Car. It's just about a car, a pyramid car. So we also throw art shows at these comic conventions as well, where we would just kind of rent out spaces or cafes or bars, whatever, and we would just cover the walls with our drawings and also do paintings and stuff. So it was another thing where like there was no galleries for us, so you make the galleries happen, you know, and then you invite people so they see that you're making this stuff. I think that's like a super important thing. So we were doing that, and then we get noticed. Oh, here's one of my comics, you guys. It's a prison break. It's about a prison break, and everyone tags along on his prison break until the entire prison leaves. This is about. I'm really interested in. I really like comics and dialogue and stuff. It's very important to me, like how people interact and stuff with each other. So I like people in fantastic situations, like kind of talking about mundane stuff, you know, like people at a gladiator show watching terrible stuff, but they might have a normal baguette and nachos or something like that. I think that's pretty funny. And Vandals, the concept of that is just people doing nice things. And so Kazuo Kibishi does this volume, Flight, which is a collection of comics. And I think it was from our shows and from the minis and stuff that we were passing out, he asked me and Graham to be in his anthology. So I've been in it a few times, and I created it was just Igloo Head and Tree Head and the adventures of all these kind of things with trees, or stuff on their heads. with humans hanging out on top of it and stuff. So that's just the entire world. Yeah, it's interesting. So this other thing I just want to mention was Double Fine Action Comics. So this is something that like at Double Fine during Psychonauts, like it was like 5 years long, stuff like that. So we wanted to do. I really wanted to have some sort of like warm up in the morning, something to feel like I'm doing something, finishing something. So every morning when I got to work, I'd spend an hour and do a comic and just put it on the site. And I asked Tim, "Can you just do this? Put it on the site?" He's like, "Yeah, well, let's put it on the site. Awesome." He's all, and then I'm gonna start using the news to as my own diary. So it was like we both had these creative outlets. Like we would never had any news as Double Fine, so he would just use it as him just writing funny stuff. And then I would just kind of post these things 5 times a week as just a way. And it took the pressure off of the blank piece of paper, getting stressed out about it, like creating something. Because you just do it, it's an hour. It could be totally terrible. You just put it on, because the next day you're going to put a new one up. It's okay, you know? And that somehow loosened me up every morning, and that action kind of helped me to be more creative, I feel like, you know? It helped take the pressure off. I was also taking improv classes at the time as well, which I also think is amazing. A way of kind of loosening up. Does everybody know what improv is? Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just a way of like just saying what's on your mind right then, you know, just trying to let just ideas flow right then and not stress about it so much, you know. That's what this exercise was. And then we made a book out of it. And I'm still kind of doing it, but I'm kind of taking a break. I need to get back into it though, because my time is mostly spent with this, which is the Great Showdowns from earlier. I started kind of like on Tumblr. A friend of mine introduced me to Tumblr, which rules, by the way. So I just post one a day, like 2 to 5 times a week, a new showdown as a new way of kind of like getting my creativity out. It's not sort of creative, but anyways. So every day I kind of post a new showdown on there. So and that's just kind of a great way to. So this is and children's book is that's my newest thing, you guys. So this is my first kind of children's book that I illustrated. Just a story about a zombie looking for a sweetheart, and he finds one. Spoilers, but that's it. So, but this is what there's an opportunity to put stuff in the background for the kids too, man. So I was like, man, what if we have these worms could be something that maybe the kids can kind of find in each one or point at, or like the little details. I think is what I think kids really appreciate if they find it, because then they feel smart, you know. So. This is some of the layouts of it. He's looking for dates and stuff. But I think the little details are really important. You know what I mean? Yeah, because look, the zombie dog, he's working out too. You see that? So yeah, and so and then thinking of all the zombie gags and stuff. You know how a zombie picnic might look and stuff. Here's an example of someone reading it. I know. He's all melting a little bit. So East Dragon, West Dragon, this one comes out in January, and this is you guys, dragons, full circle. Full circle. Finally, I get to draw dragons. And it's going to be just a good book. And this one I have, this is just a collection of my art. This one just came out, too. Oh, yeah, Jack Black wrote the foreword. Oh, yeah, because Jack Black also, remember how that character in Brutal Legend that we based on Jack Black? He actually ended up being it. Yeah, worked out. He liked Psychonauts. So I met him at a show. He came to one of my art shows in LA, and so I met him, and I didn't ask him then, but anyways, so he's sort of there. So anyways, so I wrote an amazing introduction, but I talk about some of the stuff I probably talked about today. But here's some of the spreads. Interesting, huh? Spreads. This is an example of what the book looks like. Interesting. Oh, guys, I'm into puppets. It's another thing that I'm into. I just want to mention. Okay, how many of you guys have seen the Muppets? Who's in the Muppets, dude? You guys, I've been super obsessed with Jim Henson recently, and I'm realizing how important he was to me, how important he was into my life and everything, and how creating his Muppets and everything. It's insane to me, how he's all about creating happy stuff and making people pumped and creating these little worlds, and that's everything that I want to do, crazy. So this was something that we created for a show in LA, for the Home Slice show, actually. We wanted to have people, it was a dude that actually, he's a freelance puppet maker for Henson. We wanted to have people hang out with the characters a little bit. So anyways, that's really creative. I'm going to do some stuff with them later. Okay, really close to the end, you guys. I just want to mention just a few little things about how I work. Okay, first thing, one of my favorite things on the earth is reference. Like, I love it so much. It's my biggest procrastination tool, perhaps. Like, where I will just, like, whatever the job is, no matter what it is, video game, movie, like comic, whatever, it's like I'll just collect as much as I can from Google image search and everything and just compile them together and just sketch from these things and just like, and I'll oh yeah, mood boards too. I'll go back to that. But I'll take these things and I'll print them out and I'll bring them to the cafe and I'll just kind of just make all my pages look like this when I'm trying to come up with ideas. So I don't have any sketchbooks or anything. Personally, I think they're great, but like for me, they stress me out a little bit. So I just have piles of Xerox paper that I use because it's like they're disposable, and I feel like all my ideas can be disposable in that way. So I just like to just let the ideas kind of just like, I'll make lists and I'll draw something that has totally unrelated. It doesn't matter. Anything to kind of like let the ideas kind of like flow out, even if it's like unrelated, because you never know when something might combine with something else and form some awesome idea, you know? So anyway, and sometimes with some of this stuff, like I'll get so pumped on the way it looks like here or something that I will just be like, I want it to look exactly like that. And so I'll scan it in and just paint exactly what that is, because I don't want to lose that energy, you know? I rarely try to redraw stuff, you know? I just blow it up and then trace it, you know, so I can keep that energy. That's just my thing. But really, really quick. So these mood boards, you guys, like I am constantly updating. Hey, look at that. That's his, dude. Sam's, dude. So like I'm constantly like updating, like mostly from Tumblr, you guys. I'm getting all these images from Tumblr and from friends of friends and friends and friends on Twitter and stuff like that, like just getting exposed to stuff and printing them out and putting them on my wall at home at my drawing board, constantly changing it. And then like looking at the colors and seeing what might work for whatever project it is. It's like, so I bring that along with these two things. Well, not this exactly. Anyways, so that's what I do. And then I scan them in, trace them, and put like some values in there and print them out. Like I used to like redraw them nice, but now I just like let it be like that because that cuts out one step because I'm getting lazier and lazier. And then I trace them onto the paper with like my hard pencil, and then I just paint them with watercolors on my little plate. And I have my tape sitting there to inspire me. And I do I just use the watercolors for the lines also. Because I could, it looks nicer, I guess, for me. And that's like a finished one. Sweet advice. Okay, this is the end. So the main things, you guys, I just want to say is like the community stuff, like that whole thing with like kind of getting with each other and inspiring each other and doing these things together is awesome. Because you never know, like when you start getting jobs and doing these things, when you might be able to help each other out and do stuff together, you know? So don't like burn any bridges yet. Not yet. Just like, I mean, because you never know. You go into a job. Like I actually went last month to MICA to do some stuff. I can't talk about it. But they're working on a new movie there. And I couldn't believe it. I was walking around. I was like, oh, man, dude. People I know from other jobs. It's like so incestuous, you know? Like people will go from video games to film, back to video games, and back and forth. And like people go to different studios, and you never know who might be there that you could work with and get pumped with. So I think that's the best. And doing things yourself too, you know, like everyone's like, oh, how do I get into this gallery? How do I get into this gallery? Well, I think the biggest thing is getting together with your friends. Try to create your own little scenes. Try to do your own, throw your own shows, you know, make your own books. You know, that's before someone else does it for you. You do it yourself, you know. I think that's pretty rad. And just keep on getting inspired by stuff. But you guys already do a lot of stuff, probably. Going to shows and stuff, right? You already do that. Okay, that's it, the end. Oh. Are there any questions that you guys have about anything? Yeah.
Yeah, what's the main reasons for not making your main character first and creating the world after?
I would say because you're creating you're getting the feel of everything, and you don't know what elements you could pull from that world, to inspire your main character. Like, because if you're designing that main character in a vacuum, and you put him in a thing, like, you just don't know. I mean, his styles could be inspired by everything around him, I would think. You know what I mean? So, especially the other characters and the other shapes the other characters have, and you want him or her to be like the most distinct and inspiring of the characters, or the most subtle, the simplest, or you want to simplify him, like however, to have him stand out, or her stand out. That's what I'd say. Yeah. Oh, no, yeah, it's free, yeah.
How do you go about renting places for like gallery shows? Like, where did you start doing that?
Well, I think we started we did like in cafes and bars and stuff like that, like places that just have decorations. There's lots of places like that like are cool with like having art up on the walls. If you see cafes, I just go to places like that, and you could also go and let's see. Oh man, see, it's been a long time since I did that. It's probably a lot easier, I would think, now to find spaces, with the internet. You could find spaces online somehow, that you can rent and everything. But I'd start small, start with like a cafe or a bar or something like that, Or your friend's house if it's a cool house. You know what I mean? Or it could be a loft. If any of you guys live in loft spaces, that's great. Take all the stuff off the wall and throw a party there and put art up, stuff like that. Have your band play next to it. Have a DJ. Have probably a DJ there. And let's see. Yeah, I think that's good. The end of that